Welcome to the Weird Works podcast. I'm Dr. Kristy, your host. Join us for conversations about alternative and sometimes controversial healthcare topics. This podcast will provide the evidence that you need in order to make informed decisions about your health, to empower you with the facts that you need to advocate for your health, and to encourage you that there is hope your body heals. Join us from experts from all things weird, as well as the testimonies of people with stories of radical healing who were once told that perhaps their condition was a death sentence, that they would just need to live with it, or that drugs and invasive surgery were the only answer. Let's get into agreement that if there is something natural and non-invasive that could be helpful, that it could be your first option rather than your last resort. Hey everybody, so this is a lecture that I've been wanting to do for a while. So we're calling it How to Stock Your Natural Medicine Cabinet. And so if you guys have been patients of mine for a while, I know you probably have that drawer, cupboard, pantry, some kind of dedicated space where you've got your supplements, and probably also another stash somewhere of things that you are saving because you know what to do with them. And if you don't, we're going to teach you that tonight. And you probably also have leftovers because eventually you test off of things, they do their job, you don't need to take them forever. And then we tell you don't need them anymore, but you might have like a little bit left over. And so we thought it would be fun to teach you what to do with that stash of leftovers. And then also, if you are hopeful to just learn some more product knowledge, that will be covered tonight. And also, if you don't have a supply and you want to start to stock your medicine cabinet and create your well-stocked medicine cabinet naturally, then we're going to teach you that as well. And then we have a contest. And so we've already been getting pictures. I've got some on my phone. People have been submitting their pictures of where they are keeping their stuff because I always hear about this. You guys always talk to me during your appointments about your stash. And so I'm like, I want to see what you guys are talking about. Like, I know what my cabinet and pantry look like. And so I've been receiving photos. And if you're brave enough tonight to share your screen and show me, I'm going to vote. And whoever has the best well-stocked medicine cabinet, natural medicine cabinet, is going to win a bottle of my very favorite liquid collagen product that you probably guys have all heard me talk about and post about it and shared testimonials about. Our patients are loving this. So I think if you're here, you probably prefer natural medicines or remedies over pharmaceuticals. A lot of people come to us because they want to treat things naturally. Because you're part of our club. So when people do start to talk to me about all the things that they're keeping on hand and their leftover bottles and describing their cabinets and drawers and etc., I'm like, well, that just means you're in the club. And then also that you want to know what to do with them and better understand your products. So in the office, it's always kind of a little bit of a rush. And I know you guys trust us and we give you a little rundown on what the products are for, but hopefully you'll learn a little bit more tonight. And I put this slide in almost every one of our lectures now because this is why people come to us. You are more than your diagnosis. You are not your disease. You are not your pain. You're not limited to the doom and gloom philosophy that disease is inevitable. And for this series, I'll even also put that you're not limited to the drugs and surgery are the only answer. I know sometimes that's drilled in our brain, sometimes from a very young and early age. And so we're empowering you with natural tools because I know when my family gets sick or some kind of acute situation comes up, or even the dogs need help or something, of course, I have the gift of being able to muscle test. But I also am always so grateful every single time just for the knowledge of what to do and how to help us naturally and have things on hand and be well stocked and well prepared. And so that's what I want to empower you guys to do because we have a lot more hope for you than doom and gloom and the inevitable get sick, take a drug, a pill, need an invasive procedure, get a surgery. Because we know that the body was much more miraculously designed than that, and that we also know that it can heal because of the stories and your testimonies that you share with us every single week. So I do have to put a disclaimer because we're going to be talking about natural remedies. I'm not a medical doctor. I don't treat any kind of named disease or condition. We just empower the body with the right proper tools so that it can heal itself. So it's the season. As soon as the kiddos go back to school, Labor Day hits the end of summer, people start congregating in small groups and sharing things and touching items. We are in cold and flu season. Remember the good old cold and flu? It still exists. And so what we want to do is teach you guys how to have immune support on hand, because usually when these things start to strike, if you're going to treat things naturally, you have a lot more likelihood of it working the sooner you intervene. And so at the very onset of symptoms, it's great if you already have things on hand that you can increase your dosages or start taking. So when we talk about immune, there's a few different things. Number one is if you're actively sick, you need something that's going to handle whatever the invader are. So those are called killers. And then something that's really important in our medicine, and we focus a lot on, and it is not focused on enough or at all in Western medicine, is drainage. And so when your body is actively doing what it's supposed to do and your immune system is fighting something, when it's successful, those bugs leave behind a lot of junk. We call them virulence factors. And that's kind of just, it's gross, but it's like white blood cells and mucus and pus and inflammatory mediators. And so that gunk is what creates your mucus. That's why you get congested. And so if you already have a compromised lymphatic system, you're not good at already draining and detoxifying, that's when you start to have those symptoms that linger. So like, has anybody ever been sick and then they feel like they're better, they fought it, but like the gunk and the congestion and everything lingers, and so that can leave you feeling yucky for a lot longer than the actual infection itself. And so we find if we can give the right drainage remedies right away, you won't experience that, or it'll be less, and it'll shorten the duration of not feeling well. So those are drainage remedies. Of course, we're always talking about proactive medicine, and the best cure is prevention. So if you just could take care of your immune system all the time and be well and learn how to eat and not, eat things like sugar that lowers your immune system's productivity, that would be the ideal thing. But some simple things that you can just take to boost your immune system during the season are things like, you guys hear it all the time, vitamin C, D, zinc. But the items that I'm talking about here are whole food supplements. And so I do want to just take a minute. You guys might have heard me say it, but since we're going to talk about a lot of products, all supplements are not created equally. And so I just need you guys to know that, because it's hard to go to like a box store and buy a giant, gigunda bottle of echinacea, let's say, and then have it not do what you're expecting it to do for you or defend you in the way that you're wanting it to. So you have to know how the things are made, how they're grown, if they're whole food versus synthetically created in a laboratory. The biggest difference is how they perform, but it's also in how the body recognizes it. And so when it's a whole food source and it's organic and it's natural, the body immediately recognizes that as nutrition, and it can absorb it into your cells, shuttle it to where your body needs it most and put it into action and use it as building blocks. When it's synthetic, the body has to kind of interpret it like, oh, I think this is vitamin C, but it's actually an isolate. And either the body can think it's a foreign substance and treat it as a chemical that it thinks it needs to actually detox, and that can drain your energy that's supposed to be going towards your immune system's function. Or it could just take more energy because it's not in a utilizable form, and it gives the body more jobs to do in order to recognize that as the nutrient that you need it to. And so it might not perform as well or as quickly as you need, and it can increase your toxic load. So that's the big difference when we're talking about it here. And then there's also acute care. And so, you guys know what it feels like to feel like, oh, I thought it was allergies, I was just a little scratchy and itchy, maybe a little draining, but I just thought it was allergies. And then a day or two goes by and you're like, oh, maybe it's more than allergies, right? So that is called acute care. That's time to add some superpowered stuff in, and usually herbs are what we use. Herbal remedies tend to have a more of a like, let's get this immune system up and running and get in like full attack mode. So it's like gas for your immune system. And so things like andrographis, echinacea, black cumin seed are really great things to have on hand, because what happens is usually you guys are like, oh my gosh, Thursday night, so our office is closed Friday through Sunday. Oh my gosh, Thursday night I started coming down with something, I felt it coming on. And if at that moment you had some of these things on hand and you started it right away, you literally could wake up feeling fine the next morning instead of having like a week-long drawn out situation. So those are some of our favorite immune products. And then vid, so there's some new mutated things out there that our bodies are having to fight against that we have never seen before, and they keep mutating and getting smarter. And this requires a whole different ball game of protocols. We see a lot of these cases in the office, probably because they're not getting answers anywhere else, and or it's hard to recognize it for what it is, because you could swab and take a test and test negative. And however, the systemic effects of these new mutated immune challenges out there can still be harboring somewhere in your body. They go systemic, they go in the bloodstream, they hide in organ systems. And so that's why it's not so cut and dry what exactly you're dealing with. And so we use some really super strong, powerful stuff that goes systemic. So the first category that I like for these new mutated immune challenges are called proteolytic enzymes. So you guys are used to enzymes more like digestive enzymes. So if you think of what digestive enzymes do, they break down things. So enzymes help break down the foods that you eat so that they're in smaller pieces, so it's easier for your body to digest and absorb them as it moves through the digestive system. However, if you take a specific type of enzyme and you take it on an empty stomach, so there isn't any food in your gut, it will go into the bloodstream and break down inflammatory mediators and some of these things that create immune challenges, and it'll get rid of inflammation in your system. And so you're going to see these proteolytic enzymes show up in multiple categories, because anything that's inflammatory mediated, you can use them for. So you're going to see them again in our like musculoskeletal injury section as well. So these are awesome to have on hand because there's no side effects, there's no drug interactions. You can take them for anything inflammatory. And then again on the immune support, so a different category of herbals that do different things. And then these mutated immune challenges that are new to our ecosystem, they also have a lot of cardiac symptoms. They can create a lot of cardiac symptoms. And so these natto and more than cardio are really wonderful. They're just enzymes, more enzymes, and then the more than cardio has some adaptogenics and some additional cardiac support. They are proteolytic enzymes that can help break up the fibrin material, which is like clotting material in blood vessels. Natto, there's research that shows that natto is actually good at creating vasodilation, and that natto can also help digest and break down plaques that are made from cholesterol in your arteries as well. So they're just like a roto-rooter to go and clean out your arteries. So amazing, wonderful products. And then hawthorn is an herb. So what we're seeing as a side effect of these mutated new immune challenges, like people are literally having like heart rates through the roof, or that just kind of like spike, not with activity. We're seeing people with hypertension for the first time, and it's not being handled by traditional medicine. They're seeing cardiologists that are under the care of physicians for it, of course, but it's unresolving. And so what we're finding is it's not addressing the underlying root of the inflammation and the increased challenge on the cardiac system. So these are some enzymes and some herbs that are specific cardiac support. And then we brought in a special category of supplementation. You guys have probably all heard me talk about liquid collagen. That's why we're giving it away tonight, because it's become not only my favorite, but it's become a practice favorite. We all know that once people have this new mutated immune challenge, hair loss has been a massive side effect, and sometimes it doesn't come on right away. It can be, 3 to 6 months later. And so liquid collagen is a special form of collagen. They figured out how to hydrolyze, which means shrink the molecular size of the collagen so that it's easier for your cells to absorb it. So your body literally can just drink the stuff up and move it to wherever it needs. And so, collagen has been all the rage for a while. Everybody's selling collagen. You can buy it at the box stores. You can find it in your supermarket. You can buy it on Amazon. But I've carried collagen products in my practice for years, kind of lukewarm, and we actually had just really phased it out because you guys are already on programs, you're getting results, and it just seemed like an added extra expense. And the stuff we brought in was good, clean, high quality, organic, grass-fed, etc. But it just was lackluster as far as the results that people were getting. But this liquid collagen, people are loving it, and for unexpected things as well. And so if you don't know, collagen, your cells are made up of collagen, and things like your connective tissue, which is hair, skin, and nails. It's also your joints and ligaments, your tendons, your discs in between your spine. So anything that's made out of this connective tissue, which the body's held together by connective tissue, can benefit from the collagen. And so it's easy for the hair loss thing. It's not an overnight fix because it takes time for your follicles to heal and then the hair to start to grow out. But if you want to see some amazing testimonials, go on the Dr. Kristy Harvell Instagram page. That's what it looks like, if you can see that one. So we have a Health by Design business page, and then I have a page as well. And on there, in my Reels section, right in the middle one, that is a video of my hair growth since taking liquid collagen. And I have testimony after testimony of other people's hair regrowth as well. So really cool stuff. But women were literally coming and crying and afraid they were going to go bald and were afraid to brush their hair. They didn't want to treat their hair anymore. Didn't even want to wash it because they thought they were going to lose every hair on their head. So this is an amazing remedy, but it's a remedy for much more than just hair growth. And then we all know that there's the shot that goes along with this immune protocol, or this hidden mutated immune challenge that's new to our environment. And so if somebody did get the shot, there's a lot that can be done just to clean up the chemicals, the adjuvants, the heavy metals, the other things that are in it. We've always helped vaccine injured patients, and we've treated a ton of autistic patients in my practice. However, there's one part of this particular shot, the mRNA, that cannot be detoxed. So if it has gone and combined with your DNA, unfortunately, that is a permanent change, but there is still a lot that can be done to kind of clean up the scene and make it as good of a situation as we possibly can. And so these are some of the products that we use in our protocols to clean up side effects from the shot. And so the next category is detox. And so you don't have to, when I say detox, you don't have to be on a formal detox. I think sometimes we say detox and people think about a formal 10-day cleanse or a 21-day or a 30-day detox. But you can take things on a regular basis just to keep up, right? So on any given day, in any given environment, there's plenty of opportunities for our bodies to get exposed to mold, chemicals and heavy metals, EMF and radiation. There's 5G towers expanding all over the area, and also food poisoning or food that might have E. coli or some other contaminant in it. And so these are the different products that are pretty commonly in your guys' programs. And it's good for you to just know what they're for. And if this isn't the reason you're on them, for you to know how to utilize them. And so if this time of year, if you're outside a lot and you're power washing the deck and you feel all stuffy and bloated and gross, it's probably because of mildew and mold exposure, because the time of year between the moisture in the air and the humidity and the heat, it's just, we're in Florida, a breeding ground for mold. And everybody is at different varying degrees of sensitivity to mold. So Zymex, Sponge DX, and CT Biotic are amazing at helping your body break down the toxins from mold and clean that out of your system. Are you tired of going from diet to diet to come up short and feel worse than you did when you started? Or are you just lost with all the mixed messaging out there today and not sure what's best for you and your lifestyle? Maybe you were told that you had to live with your symptoms and accept feeling less than your typical vibrant self. Well, I'm here to tell you the truth. As a practicing doctor of chiropractic, kinesiology, and clinical nutrition, I see people all the time that are just like you, frustrated and starting to lose hope. But I do want you to know that you do not have to give up on the you that you know you could be. There is a way to truly achieve optimal health and also to live your life. I want to share with you how, by doing some small, doable adjustments and taking on a new approach to enjoyable and non-restrictive eating, we can help you start feeling better and begin to see changes in your waistline and start releasing weight in as little as 14 days. And then chemicals and heavy metals, cleaning the pool, chlorine, if you use bleach in your home, things that are being sprayed in the air outside, if you travel, there's all sorts of opportunities. Oftentimes, like if somebody is having a medical procedure, dental work, for example, there's radiation and, they use Novocaine and all sorts of crazy things. So sometimes we'll put people on detox a couple of days in advance of an upcoming procedure, the day of, and then maybe 1 to 2 weeks after. And we don't always get to see you in office when you're having those things. And sometimes those things come up unexpectedly. And so if you know what you have in your medicine cabinet that you can do, you can follow that structure that I just told you. And so any of the CellCore binders are amazing. They are the best company at detox, hands down. And so as our world is getting more toxic and we're getting exposed to things that we've never seen before and are just harder for the body to handle, I would always say CellCore binders first and foremost. But some people test better for CLNZ. Chlorella is just like the green material from plants. That actually is a multivitamin and a superfood because it's packed with minerals. So you could use up your chlorella as a multivitamin, but it also has a very gentle, weak binding property. So chlorella is good for people that are sensitive or who have a compromised lymphatic or drainage system. Some of our patients are afraid to do a detox because they're afraid of the Herx reaction, which is a reaction from the body releasing toxins faster than their natural drainage systems in the body can process and handle. And so they can feel really really yucky and flu-like, and even some more severe type symptoms when they try to detox. So chlorella is good for you if you're one of those sensitive people I'm describing. It's much weaker, it's gentler, and when used consistently, it can help with some detox. Virad Chem and HVS radiation, and there's another one called Dental Cord, are really good if you're having x-rays or any kind of diagnostic imaging. Just the imaging itself, usually there's some radiation involved with that. And then especially if they're doing it with contrast. So those dyes that they inject you with to get some of the images, it's radioactive, and that stuff stays in the body. It's very persistent. So if you know that something's coming up, I highly recommend getting on products before, during, and after. And then for vaccines, there are some things that are super great. Just calcium lactate with omega-3s. In the standard process line, omega-3s are cod liver oil or tuna omega. And then we also really love the Nordic Naturals line. And so you guys might have Pro Omega, Pro DHA, or Pro EPA. So those are great at stopping fever as well. You'll see that we have an acute care section in a minute on fever. Great to keep around the calcium lactate and omega-3s for kiddos, because that can really help. They tend to spike fevers pretty quickly if their little immune systems aren't as developed. And so those are great remedies for fever as well as a vaccine reaction. And then food exposure. So parotid is more for if you got food poisoning. So you'll see in a minute, I recommend carrying some of these things with you if you're traveling. That's when it happens, right? It's usually when you're eating somewhere that you don't really know where it came from, how long it's been sitting around, how it was prepared. That's when you start to get into trouble. So this is an interesting fact about parotid. This is what you gotta love about functional nutrition, is that these guys who figured this out and created these products like were well beyond their years. Your parotid glands are in your cheeks. And that is the first line of defense against anything that you ingest. Your body naturally in your saliva will tag it if it's got any kind of foreign material, chemical substance, if it's not good for you. And so somehow they figured out to use parotid to detox against chemicals. It'll actually get your body's natural detox mechanism kickstarted to detect if you were going to put something or ingest something through the mouth that wasn't going to be good for you. So there is a supplement called parotid. Enzymes. So we have a ton of enzymes. In standard process, your enzymes are multizyme, Enzacor, or lactans. And then people who have more compromised digestive systems, you might have stronger enzymes in your program. So if it's AL90, MF90, HP90, those are some of the stronger enzymes as well. And then there's also Catalyst 7C and U. So you're never going to hurt yourself by taking more enzymes. If you eat a meal, say you make something and it doesn't agree with you, or you eat at a friend's house and you don't want to be rude and you just say, okay, I'm going to have it, it won't kill me. And then you go home and it's just sticking in your gut and sitting there and not moving through. You can always take more enzymes. You're never going to hurt anything. But on the detox section, we're talking more about if it was more like food poisoning or you ate something that was bad. And so another one that I like is GI Absorb. And so this has some of the charcoal in it. And so that'll actually bind to things. It's also really good for diarrhea. So often when you eat a food that has some toxins or some food poisoning in it, it's good to soak that up. So think of GI Absorb as something that'll soak up something that's in your stomach, and it'll also bind things together. So if you're having diarrhea, GI Absorb will actually bind the stool to make it a little more solid. So that's our detox section. And then the full moon. This is so funny. When we first tell people that parasites are more active around the full moon, and I just looked it up. I think it's the 29th is the next full moon. So in 8 days, we have the next full moon. And it's so wild and crazy, but it's so true. If you start tracking symptoms of parasite infections and seeing if it increases around the full moon, people are like, oh my gosh, I thought you were making it up. And it's totally true. It's a lot more obvious in children. So if they start, bedwetting with kiddos during the full moon, it will be more prevalent. Behavioral issues for sure, teeth grinding. These are things that you don't necessarily associate with a parasite issue, but they are symptoms of it. And if you see it more prevalent around the full moon, you can suspect it's parasites. So you don't have to be having diarrhea and sick to your stomach and having massive issues to do a parasite cleanse. Cellcore actually sells these full moon kits, and it's got the Para 1, Para 2, and Para 3 in it. And then it also has biotoxin binder. And there's a few different schedules. Basically, you pick whether you want to do like just a basic detox, if you want to kind of do a medium, or if you want to do an advanced detox. I wouldn't start with the advanced, especially if you've never done a parasite cleanse or any kind of formal detox, or if you haven't been on our program for very long, or you're not on a program, don't start with the most advanced one. But what you do is you start down here, it says on dosing, begin 1 to 3 days before the full moon and continue to take these remedies for 1 to 3, like straight on through for 1 to 3 days after the full moon. So that means you can start 1 day before the full moon and end 1 day after. You can start 2 days before and end 2 days after, or 3 days before and 3 days after. And so you increase the time, the more advanced. So the beginner one is just the 1 day before the full moon and 1 day after. And then it just tells you would take Para 1 and Para 2. You can do anywhere from 2 to 6 in the morning, and then 2 to 6 at bedtime. So again, mild detox is take 2, advanced is take 6. And then your Para 3 is a liquid. It's really strong. You do not have to put this directly on your tongue. You can put it in some water and drink it, and then have something to chase it with after. But this you can take anywhere from 10 to 40 drops with each meal. So you're just going to do that 3 times a day. And then remember when I was talking a minute ago with our immune challenges, we always give some kind of drainage remedy with it so that you don't get a massive detox reaction and feel gross. And so on the full moon kit, what we do with the parasite cleanse is we give a binder. And so the binder is going to just like soak up all the stuff that is dying off and is left behind and help your body eliminate it. And so a disclaimer on this one is to make sure that you're already having good bowel movements, like regular 1 to 3 good bowel movements before you start a full moon protocol. Because if you start with an already compromised digestive system, basically when you do this cleanse, you're giving the gut more work to do to get rid of the stuff and move it out. You don't want to kill it all off and then have it just sit there because you're constipated. So make sure you're already having good bowel movements. And also it's important to make sure that you sweat. So if you're a person that's like, oh my gosh, I never sweat, that's not a good thing. Like it might be nice because you don't have to use deodorant and you don't smell, but it's not good for you because you're not detoxing. Your body gets rid of toxins microscopically through your sweat glands. So if you don't sweat, I wouldn't recommend doing this. And if you already have compromised bowel function, you might want to get that handled before starting a full moon kit. But everybody else, you could just do this every full moon. Okay, so let's go into a couple of acute conditions. And then I got my little kit, my little cheat sheet. So this is what you guys will get emailed. I didn't write every single product out because it was super funny. I was like wanting to do this class for the longest time. And people were like, yes, I really want you to do this class. And then when I started putting the slides together, I was like, oh my gosh, it's going to be like, for this, take this, for this, take this. And I was like, this is going to get really boring really quickly. So I didn't put a ton of stuff on the slides, but the addendum that I'm going to email to you guys has it broken down. So for digestion support, we already talked about food poisoning. We talked about food enzymes. But you have other organs of digestion, like your gallbladder, for example, and your liver. And so if you have AF beta food is mostly beets. Beets are great for the gallbladder. So if you have like tenderness on the right, like upper quadrant right here, like on your flank under your rib cage, that's where your gallbladder and your liver live. And so it doesn't have to be sharp pain, but if it's just kind of achy chronically there and you have a fullness or an awareness, that could be because of sluggish gallbladder and liver function. And so not everybody loves to eat beets. You can eat beets, but if you won't, then you can take them in a tablet form, which is called AF beta food. And then there's a liquid remedy called Colinest
So some of you might be on that and not had known what it's for. So if you were gonna all of a sudden feel sluggish here, often if that's gonna happen, if people suddenly feel, this stagnant feeling or ache over that right rib cage area, it's probably going to be induced by having a really rich or high fat meal. And so that's why, because that's what the gallbladder does, is it releases bile to emulsify or break down fat, so that when that rich meal goes down into the intestines, it makes it easy for the intestines to digest, absorb it, and do something positive with that fat. And so the sluggishness can be helped with that liquid remedy called Colonest. It's a drainage remedy. So we keep talking about drainage. So there's drainage remedies that are specific for eyes, ears, nose, throat, sinus. And then we have a different drainage remedy for almost every single organ system in the body. So Colonest is the drainage remedy for liver, gallbladder. And then for things more just like acid feeling or gassy bloating, we have okra pepsin and Gastrix, and they can be used solo or they can be used in combo. So for severe GI upset, you can actually open a capsule of okra pepsin and open a capsule of Gastrix and mix it in a small amount of water and then drink it and just let it sit there. Like, don't drink anything else or eat anything for a while. And that will soothe, like put the fire out in the GI system. If you think about okra, we're in the South. I had no idea what okra was except for the supplement okra pepsin before I moved down here. I actually found I like okra. You can just eat it raw. They sell pickled okra. Okra is really easy to just hide in stews and soups. It just deteriorates into nothing. It doesn't have a whole lot of flavor, kind of like zucchini. It just takes on the flavor of whatever you cook it with. But if you think about okra, it's really mucousy, right? It's slimy. It's kind of gross. Well, your digestive system is made out of a mucosal membrane. And so that okra literally goes in there and coats it and supports the mucosa to protect it against a lot of acids and the spicy foods and, things like gases that build up in the GI system. So okra pepsin builds up the mucosa, which is that protective lining. And that is so in the intestinal lining as well. So people that have been told they have leaky gut, okra can really be soothing for that whole intestinal system as well. Zypan is good for the burning. It's one of those counterintuitive things. So when people feel like they have too much acid, we tell them to take more. So Zypan is hydrochloric acid. And so what happens is that acid reflux is not because you don't have enough. It's not an overproduction of acid, rather. It's that there isn't enough. And as we age, we naturally produce less and less hydrochloric acid. The pH of our stomach gets more alkaline. And when it does that, it doesn't break down the food as effectively as it should, and it's specifically meat and proteins when we don't have the right stomach acid. And so by taking Zypan or drinking some apple cider vinegar, it tells the body, hey, the pH in here is proper. We don't have to go into overproduction and try to put a lot of extra stomach acid into the system. So when people have acid reflux, it's actually an overproduction because of not having enough. That's the body's natural response to it. So in the medical world, they give you antacids, but that's really harmful long-term because your stomach was designed to be acidic, especially to break down proteins and especially to absorb minerals like calcium and magnesium and potassium, and all the things you hear about are so critical and missing from the foods that we're eating. So you can really have a lifelong deficiency created by taking antacids long term. We talked about constipation a minute ago with the full moon protocol, needing to make sure before you start something like that you're already moving your bowels. So Cellcore has an amazing product called Bowel Mover. And then intestinal cleanse, we have 1, 2, and 3. 1 is the most intense, 2 is kind of medium, 3 is a liquid. It's very gentle. It's safe for infants and pets. So that's a great one to have in the medicine cabinet because every once in a while, everybody gets a little backed up. especially during travel. Some people really have issues with getting off schedule when they're traveling. Your food is different. Sometimes your, body clock gets all messed up. Some people just don't like to poop in public and then they really get off. So having the intestinal cleanser bowel mover is really good. And then there's also a product called Z gluten. I don't talk about this a lot because gluten isn't good for anybody, whether you've been tested for it as being a sensitivity for you or not. Really, we all would do better to eliminate or reduce the amount of gluten in our diet. But there is this enzyme digestive support from systemic formulas called Z gluten, and it specifically helps the body process and break down gluten. So if you're gonna have it or you're super sensitive, my patients, they call it like, oh, I got glutened. They come in and they're feeling all terrible and they're like, I got glutened over the weekend. I'm like, oh gosh, what happened? And then they'll talk about, like they were at a party or something and they didn't eat any bread and they went the crackers and the obvious things that are gluten containing, but maybe they ate a dip or they had some condiments or something. And so gluten isn't just in wheat products. Gluten, if you're really sensitive, and not everybody is this sensitive, but if you're really sensitive, you really can get in a bad way and make a turn for the worse by accidentally having something that contains gluten in it. And oftentimes it could be seasonings and spices, it could be condiments, dips, things like that. Things that are unsuspecting. So if you are sensitive, having a bottle of Z gluten would be an awesome thing to just have so that you can let your body get rid of it and not have days and days of this cleansing process.
Americans spend $33 billion every single year on diets and weight loss products, and yet diets have a 95% failure rate. These statistics and my 18 plus years experience as a practicing doctor show me the real dangers of a cookie cutter approach to health, and that truthfully, diets don't work. This is why I created the 90-10 lifestyle, for the people like you and me, busy and not willing to settle for less when it comes to our health and wellness. This program isn't just about feeling fantastic and or losing weight for good. It's a roadmap to upgrading your body and mind from the inside out, while simultaneously suppressing the inflammation and suppressing the guilt that often comes with a high stress, high expectations, and high performance. The number one reason the 90-10 lifestyle is so effective and easy to maintain is that it gives you back your willpower instead of forcing it.
And then bladder, that's a condition that can kind of just come up pretty quickly and go south. Elboplex is a product that is very soothing. It's kind of like a roto-rooter for the bladder to just clean everything out. Spanish black radish is a drainage remedy as well for bladder and kidneys. And then KDIR is known as a stone crusher, and it's actually a natural diuretic. So people who have a lot of fluid retention, that would be a good supplement for them. And sometimes that's something that just comes up, right? You might have days where you're fine and doing good, and then all of a sudden everything is like stiff and achy, and you notice like your socks and shoes start, putting lines in your skin where that wasn't always happening. So the KDIR could just help your kidneys and bladder just clear everything out and reset. Our next condition is sleep. I can't believe how many people have trouble with sleeping. It's really a chronic problem. And there's some natural things that you might not realize. A lot of times we'll give a supplement as a comprehensive program. And again, you don't realize that you could take a little bit more, or you could shift your dosing to take some of these products closer to like dinner time and bedtime when you're trying to wind down for sleep. So Mintran, it actually stands for mineral tranquilizer. And I started saying mineral tranquility instead of tranquilizer because some people were afraid, like we're all kind of anti-medicine anyway. And they're like, well, I don't want to take a tranquilizer. I'm like, okay, I get it, but it's not that dramatic. It's very subtle. It just helps the body kind of like take the edge off, and just calm the nervous system down. So Min-Chex is a little stronger than Min-Tran. And then our magnesium products, Easy Mag is a vegetarian source of magnesium, and it also crosses the blood-brain barrier. So it's great for sleep, for mood, like if people have more like anxiety kind of things, even for depression. Magnesium is very calming, and this one can work through the blood-brain barrier and affect the nervous system. Magnesium lactate. This magnesium form, it's calming, but not as calming as the Easy Mag. But this is very calming to the musculoskeletal system. So sometimes people are having trouble sleeping because they have a lot of tension in their muscles or like restless legs. Like when you finally settle for the night, everything starts moving. So magnesium lactate is good for the muscle cramps, the restless legs, and magnesium lactate is also good for constipation. So see how they all cross over. We don't give a pill for a problem. So when you take something healthy that's full of nutrition and the body recognizes it, it can shuttle it and use it wherever it needs it. So that's why it's hard to answer your question sometimes. It's like we don't really give products for symptoms, but these are some natural things that you could have on hand that I would rather have you increase your doses or have these than, pour on acute emergency situation. Wild Yam Complex, this is only for you if you're already taking it. This isn't something that I suggest that you order or put yourself on. But if you have it in your program and you didn't know that you could take it at night, certain genetic types actually will turn the progesterone from wild yam into something that can be very calming. Now, it doesn't have this effect on everybody. So if your wild yam doesn't help you at bedtime, you could take it during the daytime. But it's worth mentioning because it can be very soothing for some women to take in the evening and towards bedtime. So I just threw that in there because if you have it, and it's a matter of just changing your dose. Some people notice a dramatic improvement in sleep just by taking their wild yam later in the day. And then our next acute condition is energy. So many people are, if you're sleep deprived and having the insomnia like we just chatted about, then you probably are also struggling with your energy levels during the day. So Moors and G-Cell are methylated B vitamins. And so that's important because it's thought that 50 to 60% of the population have a genetic mutation called MTHFR. And even if you are negative for MTHFR, it doesn't rule out that you are not necessarily a terrible methylator. There's over a dozen genetic mutations that are related to methylation. So we can chat more about that with our nutrigenomics testing. If anybody wants to either find out if they have MTHFR or they were negative for MTHFR but still have really challenges with energy levels, they might have a different mutation. But Moors and G-Cell are great for even people who have this MTHFR. Often people are terrified at taking B vitamins because if they have MTHFR, but these are forms that are safe that your liver can break down. B16 is a great multivitamin. I found like sometimes even with Moors and G-Cell and some of the other B12s that people had to add the liquid super B12 and kind of use that as needed. And the B16, you probably can just take alone, like you probably don't need anything else. But if you're not a good methylator or you have MTHFR, I wouldn't do the B16. So there's that. The super B12 are drops. So that's a nice little thing because you could put some in your water in the mid-afternoon if you have a mid-afternoon slump. You can just take a shot of them in the morning as a pre-workout. It's just a very natural thing. If you read energy drinks, they're full of crap, first of all, like synthetic ingredients and artificial flavorings, sucralose, and it's all synthetic, like even the B vitamins. But that's why people are addicted to energy drinks. Number one, they probably have a super load of caffeine, but they also have like so much B12 in it. Like some of them literally will say like 12,000% of the recommended daily allowance of B12. Well, why in the world would you take 12,000%? Like that's ridiculous. So that too much of a good thing is not necessarily better. We'll say that. But B12 is energizing. So that's why it's in every energy drink. So this is a natural little thing that you can do. You can make your own energy drink. You can just take a squirt in your mouth. It's just nice to have as a little backup for the days that you need it. And then BCATP is more root cause. And so ATP is what your body makes in its cells. It is the energy molecule. And so there's all sorts of trending information and all the influencers everywhere. It's becoming really well known about mitochondria. And the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. I'm going to take you guys back to like biology, 7th grade biology. So the mitochondria is part of the cell, and it's where the cellular energy is performed. And so when people are having problems with energy and endurance and just like super fatigued and dragging all the time, it's probably because their body doesn't even have the building blocks to make enough energy. And so BCATP is a cell core product, and it actually helps with mitochondrial function. So if you're having a lot of brain fog, just extreme fatigue, muscle fatigue, talk to us. We can definitely test you on the BCATP. But I put it in there because it is in some people's programs for various reasons, and they might not have realized that whole relationship with the mitochondria and energy production. But I love to take BCATP before a workout. And some people, if you guys have saunas, you can also take it after your sauna to help your mitochondria work to incorporate all of that good energy that you put in with the sauna and to facilitate detox and help the body like process it all out. So that's a little hack. So you can start to stack some of your therapies. Okay, allergies. Things that are great. Antronix is one of the most common. Antronix actually works through the liver. So you get a 2-for-1. You get a little bit of a liver flush cleanse, and it helps as a natural drainage remedy. And this is more drainage for eyes, ears, nose, throat, sinus now. So more head and chest. Allerplex is a combo product of some herbs. It has a little bit of Antronix in it and some fenugreek. And then Allergico is the herbal remedy. So sometimes Antronix isn't enough, and you can add Allergico to the Antronix. So if you're finding that Antronix only works for you at super high doses, you can add the Allergico with it, and you probably can take less Antronix. So that's a little hack. If you guys are old school and you've been stocking your pantry for a long time and you've got some older remedies, Allergico was the replacement for Albizia. So they don't make Albizia anymore. But if you have it and you were like, what is this bottle? I don't even know what to do with this or why I had it. Albizia is an herbal remedy that is supportive for allergy symptoms. And then for allergies, anything that is for drainage. So if you guys have any of those blue bottles, they're from Energetics. There's called Drainage Tone, Inflammatone. There's Lymph Tone 1, Lymph Tone 2, Lymph Tone 3. Any of those blue bottles are drainage, and it's just great for congestion. If your ears plug, if your sinuses plug, if you always have postnasal drip. In the traditional medicine world, I think everybody thinks you're supposed to dry everything up, right? There's Mucinex and Sudafed and all those over the counter because draining is annoying, right? Well, you have to get rid of it. If you're having those drippy type symptoms, it's because it's not draining. Your lymph nodes in your neck and throat that are supposed to drain the head, they're backed up. And so that all has to come out somewhere. And so if you're drippy in your nose, in your eyes, or your ears tend to drain, it's because your lymphatics aren't moving things the way they should be doing. So the tones are good for that. And then there's also the Marco Pharma. So these are also liquid remedies, but they're not in the blue bottles. They're in brown glass bottles with a white label and a white top. And so there's Allernest, Lymphanest, and Pulmonest. Those are some of the allergy drainage remedies. You're never going to hurt yourself by taking extra drainage. So I said that a minute ago about the enzymes. You're never going to hurt yourself by taking extra enzymes. You're never going to hurt yourself by taking extra drainage either. So you don't need my permission. You don't need to be dosed. If you know what these things are for, you can always add it. And then for allergies, there's also some really good sinus remedies. Sinus Forte is for more of the sinus stuff, and Bronch Effect is more for chest. So everybody kind of tends to be different where it affects them. But if the Antronix and the drainage remedies aren't enough, you might need it. And I find that these are more for acute stuff. Like if you're really congested and it's more of a temporary abnormal thing, it's nice to have Sinus Forte and Bronch Effect in the medicine cabinet as a go-to for that. And if you're sick, it'll also clear out your chest and your sinuses as well. Next month, we'll be announcing we are affiliated now with a new supplement line, Seeking Health. The reason that I found them was because of the new nutrigenomics testing and the ability to work right down to the enzyme that turns your genes on or off. Like we literally can work on the genetic level for some of these issues. And so there's actually an enzyme that is responsible for your histamine production and handling. It's called DAO. And if you have a mutation in your DAO, in your DAO gene, there's a really awesome product called Histoblock. And some people, the histamines are more what you think of as traditional eyes, ears, nose, throat, sinus allergies. But the majority of histamine is actually produced in the gut. So a lot of GI issues, food sensitivities, it starts because of a histamine imbalance in the digestive system. So there is, their product is called Histoblock, and they have a couple of different ones. So I love that as a new product. And then anything else that we see for allergens. And like I said, I can email you guys these lists and it'll be organized under what company so you can shop and read more. All the websites are amazing at explaining the products and what they do and who they're for. But you have to kind of read it with the filter. They have to be FDA compliant. So just like you hear me kind of fumbling with what I can and can't say and not making medical claims or, you know, claiming to treat a disease or a condition, they're going to say the same thing. So don't expect to go on there and say, this is for leaky gut, and this is for this name condition, and this is for that name condition. They won't. They're going to tell you the enzymatic process and the biochemical action and that kind of thing. So just when you read it, know that filter, that's what you're reading it through. Okay. MS is musculoskeletal. So musculoskeletal injuries, anything, you know, sprains and strains, you lift something the wrong way, you're having spasm, that kind of thing. So I alluded to this earlier. We're going to go to the proteolytic enzymes because they break up the inflammation. So two super common ones are CTzyme and Marcozyme. You also saw these a minute ago in the COVID protocol because of systemic inflammation. They're also going to be in the musculoskeletal injury protocol. And then there's also something called Salagesic. This is standard process. So Salagesic is just white willow bark. Does anybody know what medicine, what common over-the-counter medicine white willow bark is for? I don't know if I can share my screen and see the chats. So white willow bark is what aspirin was patented after. So you can take a more natural version. So Salagesic is the product name in standard process. So obviously great to keep in your medicine cabinet for all sorts of different things. So you could reach for that instead of the other. And then Relief Tone, you might have Relief Tone. It's one of the blue energetics bottles for something else. But if you read it, it actually says like cramps, muscle cramps, injuries, achiness, that kind of thing. That's that slide. And then on our next slide, we start with, this is menstrual cramps, but it also can be muscle cramps because the uterus is a muscle. So when women are having monthly cramps, the remedies that handle that could also handle like a Charlie horse cramp in your leg. So guys, I'm saying that out loud so you're like, I'm not taking my wife's whatever. That's for period cramps. It's for muscle cramps, regardless of where the cramp is. So there is a product in the standard process line called Cramplex. Women love this. This isn't something that you have to take every single day. You can just take it during that time, but it will help with leg cramps. And then another product combination, we talked about this a little bit ago as a fever reducer and also for vaccine reactions, but it's going to show up here for cramps, is the combination of calcium lactate with Cataplex F. So F stands for fats. Cataplex F, they're called pre-digested fats. So it's just already partially digested, so it's easy for the body to break down and utilize. And if you take those pre-digested fats from Cataplex F with calcium, it'll literally drive the calcium right into your muscles. And so here's another fun use of that. So women who are going into early, like preterm labor, they're having a lot of early cramping and contractions too soon, you literally could chew a bunch of calcium lactate and Cataplex F and stop a contraction. So if it can stop a contraction that's that strong, it obviously can help your Charlie horse in your legs or help menstrual cramps. You don't have to chew it. People ask me all the time. It tastes terrible. I mean, calcium is chalky, powdery, and then the fats are kind of fishy. But if you're really having a Charlie horse, you probably don't care or even wouldn't even tune into what your taste buds are telling you. If you had one of those wake you up in the night, like that's the worst way to wake up ever, like with your leg like so tight and you can't really even stretch it out. So you could keep calcium lactate and Cataplex F by your nightstand if that's something you experience on the regular. Okay, then the next one is for heavy menstruation. So we literally have had women who thought that they were going to have an ablation because of heavy bleeding, and they would use Ovex or Ovex P in high doses, like up to sometimes 12 a day, and it literally will stop the heavy bleeding. And so it's not going to work if there's a medical condition and whatever, but it's worth trying, right? We've had women who, go back to school as an adult, and it was hard for them to be able to stay in class because they would have to run out and change their, pads on the regular and that kind of thing. So if you're in a situation where it's interfering with day to day, this is an awesome thing to at least try. And then stress. How many people are stressed? Every single one of you. So we talked about some of these a minute ago. They're going to show up again. Again, there's a lot of crossover. We did a lot of these with sleep. And so some of the same remedies that I said are helpful for sleep are also good for stress. And so I'm saying that because these aren't sleeping pills. So you can take them during the day and they'll just take the edge off for stress, but you also could dose them in the evening when your body's supposed to be winding down as a gentle support to just help the body de-stress from the day and decompress and get into a state where sleep is possible. I added to the stress one also CBD. So if you guys don't yet know, we have our own white label product. We had our own whole food, full spectrum CBD product made for us that is made with MCT oil and all pure clean ingredients, no isolates or anything synthetic. It's great. I use it every morning as I get ready for my day. You can take another squirt of it at bedtime. And then there's 2 supplements, Calm and Min by Systemic Formula, that can be helpful for stress as well. So these are things you can totally take in the day. They're not going to put you in a coma. You're not going to need to curl up and take a nap. You don't have to be afraid of them, but they are helpful. There's a couple on the sleep side that weren't going to be put on the stress side. So there's something for dream. Oh, we have another sleep slide later. There's something for dream called Dream, rightfully called that, and like people take it and they're like, oh my god, I had the wildest, most vivid dreams. And it's because these are people, like, they weren't sleeping well to begin with, and so they weren't dreaming or remembering their dreams. Dreams aren't a bad thing. Dreams are a sign of getting in the deeper stages of sleep. But for somebody who's not used to deep sleep, when they start dreaming, they can be really some are like really terrified. And I'm not talking about night terrors. They're just like they don't think it's normal because they've never had a dream before. And then they get used to it and they start feeling better and it's not a big deal. So Dream is for nighttime only, and N3 Relaxa is for nighttime only. Those are actually like, has sleep remedies in it that will make you groggy that you don't want to take in the day. I talked about fevers. We already did the fever slide for kids. That was the calcium lactate and cataplex F. But the same thing, so cool, right? The same thing that is helpful for fevers is also helpful for sunburn. And so on the sunburn side, you want to use those as prevention. So I know summer's starting to wind down, but you still can get sunburn out there if you're out there long enough. And so you would take higher doses of calcium and lactate before you go out in the sun. So if you're already burnt, this is not going to help you, but it is a preventative. So if you have sensitive skin or you don't want to use a lot of sunblock or haven't found a natural one that you love, you could load up on calcium lactate and cataplex F at least an hour before you go out in the sun. And then depending on how long you're out there, you might need to repeat the dosing every few hours. And then cuts and scrapes. So Argentin 23 is a colloidal silver product that we use for a lot of things. Dr. Grable is a medical doctor here that we co-treat a lot of patients with. And as Dr. Grable, to quote Dr. Grable, what he says is Argentin 23 will kill anything that it comes in contact with except for you. So what he meant by that was it's naturally antibacterial, antiviral, antifungal, antiparasitic. And so it can be used instead of like an antibiotic ointment for cuts and scrapes to disinfect the area. They have sprays, and then they also have an ointment. So like more of a gel that'll stay on there. You could put on and then put a Band-Aid over. So we have those in the office. And then if you're a doTERRA or essential oil person or have an account, I love their Correct X. It's just loaded with really super powerful healing herbs and essential oils like Melissa. And that's great for acne. It's good for chapped lips. It's good for cuts and scrapes. You can put it on bug bites. I'm probably not even naming half of the things that you can use those for. So those are great. And then Standard Process also has a chlorophyll ointment, and that can be used topically for all of the same. I know a lot of mamas like the chlorophyll ointment as like a diaper cream instead of some of the yucky. A lot of the diaper cream are petroleum based. Like, why would you want to put a petroleum product on your baby's like bare bottom? So there's a lot of natural nice things that you can do. Okay. So if you want the links, an easy, quick way is to just go to our website and click the supplements and products. And this is it here if you want to see that. All right, you guys, you were an awesome audience as usual. In good health naturally, I'm Dr. Kristy signing off until our next adventure together. Good night, everybody.
Your health and how you feel on a daily basis directly impact your mental, emotional, and spiritual health. We will help you reprogram your way of thinking and be on a plan that works for your body instead of against it. It is time to rewrite the false belief that health abnormalities are normal and that it just is what it is. You do not have to live with feeling less than 100%.
We invite you to take a serious look at how you feel on a day-to-day basis. Is what you're doing working? Do you want to learn how to live a more holistic life that's still enjoyable and fun? The 90-10 lifestyle can be the bridge from subpar results to the vibrant and abundant lifestyle that you've been looking for. So click the link by this video so you can get started today. We truly, truly know that this program can change your life. We'll see you on the inside.